now. So this is, I believe, the third in the Tech Talk series. These were kind of set up to provide a flexible time for discussions of technical nature, whether it's new spin-up groups that are doing things, or new NSF-funded initiatives, or software tools, or hardware evolution, things like that. And my friend Dr. Sandra Gesing at Notre Dame has offered to give us a talk on the sustainability via on-campus teams. I think it's part of the U.S. Science Gateway's Community Institute, SGCI. And she's got a slide deck prepared, and she's also going to take some questions, I guess, at the end of the presentation. Sandra, unless you want to take them as hands raised, it's up to you.
Oh, I'm fine with in between. Then it's also still fresh what I'm talking about. And so
okay.
Yeah, if Marisa already offered that she will have a look at, because when I'm talking and presenting, I sometimes don't see the raising hands. So
right.
If Marisa can interrupt me and say, hey, there's a question, that would be fantastic.
We'll keep an eye on the chat box for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah.
And looks like Marissa's got it recording now. So Sandra, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and let you get started.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you also for, inviting me to speak, and happy to present on the Science Gateway Institute initiative. So I lead the initiative on creating on-campus groups. And before we start, let me see, how can I... So I hope you see the first slide, like sustainability via on-campus teams. Fantastic. So, and I'm not fully sure about, I know, yes, this is a Campus Champions call, but how many of you have to do with Science Gateways? And before I continue further, I make it like directly an interactive part. And I have a question for you. And if you go to menti.com, and you can do it from your phone, you can do it from your laptop, wherever you are sitting at the moment. And you could use the code, the 6 numbers, and I would like you to put these 6 numbers in and tell me whether you have heard about Science Gateways before I've mentioned it today. So, and you will see live on my screen how people are answering. So this looks good. Okay, that's fantastic. A mixed group. So everyone can do, because I have a couple of these slides integrated. I think that makes it a little bit more interactive and nicer, that you don't only have to listen to me, but also can do something. So it's still growing. Yeah, and just say something if you cannot reach it or have a problem to get to the page. So, yeah, wait another couple of seconds. And I do this only also because I have a couple of slides to define Science Gateways, and I'm happy to walk through them, but if every one of you would have answered, oh, we know what you are talking about, then I would have shortened that part. Okay. So thank you very much for answering this. And I have a further question for you. Do you know groups, developers at your institution who are creating Science Gateways at the moment? If you know what are Science Gateways, do you know groups? Okay. A few more boards. This is very cool. I really like this tool.
I like it too. It's cool.
It's cool, huh? It really makes it So yeah, thank you very much. So I will talk them a little bit about the science gateways first and define them, and then we get into the details of groups on campus. Oh, that's cute. I like it. So this will be also still open if. So this looks very good. So some people already, 22% know that there are groups who are developing science gateways. Some are not sure. And in the middle is the big group with, oh no, I don't think so. So I go back to my slides then. Do you see the slides again?
Yes, we do.
Great. Get this out of the way. So at the moment, the state of the art in research is that we have a decreased complexity of research questions, of hardware, software, also lab instruments. And also if you look at the Internet of Things, we have all these sensors, we get this huge data volume and always these different data formats. And there's the need for end-to-end solutions to access data, software, computing services, and equipment, because not all researchers are really into the details of technology. Therefore, for example, the campus champions are there to help over the first hurdles to access XSEDE resources. So if you look here at Einstein, he's a little bit sad, looking at all the different things he has to know. So therefore, we are into science gateways to make him a happy Einstein. And what are science gateways? Science gateways are really these end-to-end solutions. And something is not normally working here. Okay. So, and this describes a little bit, you might have not heard about science gateways yet, but sometimes people just describe them differently, like in this elephant. Some people say it's a virtual research environment. A lot of European researchers say virtual research environment. In the US, we have the Science Gateway Institute, and we say also in XSEDE science gateways. But some people say it's a cyber infrastructure, it's a collaboratory, or it's a research portal, or it's a virtual lab. It's really, so a virtual lab is used often in Australia. And I only wanted to make clear here, you might have seen science gateways already, but it's just not called a science gateway. So a typical life cycle of a science gateway is that someone has the initial idea and the funding, and does the planning and design, there's this ramp up, active operations, and then the funding ends. And so there are, the requirements are gathered again, and there's an outreach to the community. And when there's additional funding, then it starts again that there's some planning and design and extensions, or it has to be ramped down because the money is not there. And creators of science gateways are often really work in silos, so in groups with researchers together. For example, a lot of my colleagues 10 years ago were in bioinformatics and really on this field, like that they have done something for biologists because they didn't know otherwise how to use the bioinformatic tools. Or they must bridge to a variety of resources, what you know very well, because, for example, with the XSEDE resources or local campus infrastructures, how do you help faculty on campus or your users, your students? And to create really efficiently a science gateway, you want to use building blocks. You don't want to always reinvent the wheel from scratch again. And to focus on the higher level functionality, what is really to create something for the community, for the users who are really delivering this service to. It's often a struggle to secure the sustainable funding to have really a science gateway surviving several years. So, and this is the on-campus group services, which I lead for the Science Gateway Community Institute, the SGCI, helps with consultation to define a roadmap for building, for example, a gateway community on campus. So we have seen that a lot of you say, oh, I really don't know whether there are, already gateway creators on campus. Or maybe you want to extend a group or a center, or even start a group or center to help with creating science gateways. We can also help with building the community to connect between the campus groups if they're, that they can support each other, so that you have a roadmap and get really from these all question marks to a nice, smooth roadmap. So if you look, for example, at science gateways in XSEDE, this is the statistics from the fourth quarter of 2016. And you can see the uptake. The yellow line is a gateways line. And you can see the uptake of gateways on XSEDE resources. And so the login is the command line, the gray line. So you see that already in 2013, at the end of 2013, there were more gateway users than command line users. And it was really rapidly taking up. And in the last 3 years, it has also taken up more. I only don't have current numbers. Maybe one of you would have more information for me there and could give me the analysis. So I know that it still was growing, and that this huge spike was because of 2 science gateways, but also others are gaining communities and users.
Sandra?
Yeah?
This is Jeff. I think this still holds true, and I see Nancy's on here as well, but I was always surprised at the sheer number of cycles that the gateways utilized on XSEDE resources compared to just SSH, command line sessions. Do we know exactly what the rough percentage is now of gateway users compared to users as far as XSEDE cycles? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. That's, yeah, I'm rattling on and missed the main line there. That's, 70% of users.
Okay.
That's just huge.
And that was already in 2016. And so if Nancy is on the call. Yeah, Nancy sent me.
I've seen 2017 numbers that are pretty similar. I think that exponential line kind of tails off a little bit more recently, but I haven't seen it, since then, Jeff, and I don't have access to the same queries that I used to in my diminished XSEDE state. But I would say too that this is users and not usage. So the usage is typically a lot smaller, but the publications are, up there with the numbers of the users. So the gateways facilitate a lot of science for a bargain in terms of CPU use.
Yeah, it's certainly staggering numbers, and also a testament to the program over the years. It's continued to grow, and it continues to enable science everywhere. So kudos to yourself and all of the people that make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for example, Cyprus has at the moment, I think, more than 25,000 users attracted in the last couple of years, and that is huge. I mean, I don't have the numbers for ITASA at the moment. Yeah. So if we look at our survey we did for the Science Gateway Institute in 2014, we asked also 29,000 people and almost 5,000 answered, what services would be helpful if we have an institute? So we proposed services, and you can see here something like 72% said, oh yeah, we would like to know whether our Science Gateway is used in impact analysis, website analytics, or we want to adapt technologies. This 67% is a great number because people are thinking over to adapt technologies instead of reinventing the wheel, which makes it more efficient and helps also Science Gateway frameworks to have a higher user number and then also more chances to be sustainable. You can see also choosing technologies, that the fourth line is 66%, that they would like to have help with it. So it was really very interesting, and what we realized is that we need a lot of different experts for this. Please go to menti.com again. And I have a question. Oh, get out of my way here. Sorry. So it's a new number you have to give in. And that is the 608740. And I would like to know from you, which expert would you allocate your budget to? And you get 100 points. And it shows you when you fill it out, when you give 20 points somewhere, that you have 80 left or something. So if you look here, it's a usability consultant who can help with the all-over usability of your solution, or a graphic designer who can present it very nicely on the web, an evangelist who cares about the community, reaches out to the community, a project manager, a professional software developer who helps with creating the solution, or a quality assurance and testing expert, or a security expert. So would be happy if you fill it out, that we see some numbers, what kind of experts you would like to see in your project from your experience, how to create a solution that can help researchers do their science. So it's a little bit always jumping around, so it always looks what is, it sorts it by percentages. No. The evangelist and security expert are fighting about the position. It's a little bit like a game. Okay, so what we can see is from the numbers here already, yes, a professional software developer is something that the community also in academia gets more and more aware of, that it's really good to have someone to know about software design, to be experienced, to know what software development means. Usability consultant is coming more and more. Besides, 15 years ago, it was about efficiency and effectiveness. Now more people look for usability of solutions. The security expert is so important when we look at the web and internet. We have to have security experts. So the evangelist, I think to have the connect to the community is very important to get a science gateway running. So if we compare, people are still voting, I like that. So
Sandra, I'm an evangelist for HUBzero and the GABS project.
Yeah.
So I know, and I know it's really challenging. Yes. When you're, especially since I'm not technical, but they're equally as important, because otherwise, how do you let people know about what you're doing?
Exactly. I mean, that is where I exactly come to, that we still in academia, or in general in academia, it's often underestimated that you have to reach out to your community, that they use your software to create science with it is so essential that you can continue with your science gateway or with your solution. You need a big community. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So I really like to see the numbers about the professional software developer. I'm also, the usability consultant is great. The evangelist could have, maybe higher numbers, the awareness about this topic. I think we still have to work on that there's an awareness for it. The security expert is already good. So what is maybe not totally fair, because we had a limited budget. So would you have voted a little bit differently if you would have an unlimited budget? That is interesting, yeah. Because, of course, a limited budget is how the real world works, that when we ask it in the same questions in the survey, 5 years ago, then we didn't give a limit on the budget. So it's maybe not exactly, we cannot expect the same numbers here, but I will show you the numbers from the big survey in a moment. So will someone try to vote? Otherwise I switch the screen again. Okay. So the numbers we had for the same experts in 2014, you can also see here that the usability consultant was high ranked. A graphic designer was much higher ranked than you had the feeling at the moment for it, whether you would need it, but it depends probably also which kind of projects you have. The evangelist was also not so high ranked, which I think is really something that is underestimated, as we already said. But also here the professional software developer, as you can see, was high ranked. So the bars you can see here is that the user said, wished we had this, or yes, we had it already in our project. And that, for example, 45% had a project manager. That is very good for a project. But also here the security with 40% in total, 26 or 40, was really underestimated. What kind of danger there is also that if you don't protect your solution in the internet. So the opportunities to have an on-campus team that has all these different, the different expertise is that you can have interesting topics in the Science Gateway creation process. So you can, work on novel frameworks and web applications, or you have all multidisciplinary work, and you contribute to grand challenges like malaria eradication. And the roads can be so different. I mean, not everyone can be, an expert in each of the fields we talked about, like usability, security. So there's a breadth of interesting roles like designers, statisticians, librarians, or machine learning experts and usability experts. The challenges are some topics and roles are only needed for part of the project. So you might need for the whole project a professional software developer, but you might need the security expert only at the beginning to create the solution and help with the startup, and in between to check something. So they are not fully funded positions via one project. And for diverse expertise, you need probably different people. So if you look at this nice art, otherwise you feel like you have to do all the work and all the different kinds of work. And often it's still on campus and smaller teams that somebody has to have all these expertise, and that cannot really be fulfilled. So sustainability via on-campus teams can help really if we look at a typical research team where you have PhD students, like 80% PhD students and 20% postdocs, for example, or you have already an extended research team with a professional software developer, or you have a shared on-campus team. So you could have a quality assurance expert, a security expert, a usability expert, and all these slices. So that could be a potential salary cost distribution, how I show it here. And it would affect that there's really an increased possibility of the research team to focus on the research, because they don't have to think about security. They don't have to think about the usability. They can focus really about the topic, and there's a possibility to increase the quality of application and the efficiency of software development, because we have the experts in the field and they have more projects, so they gain also more experience. So sustainability via on-campus teams can really contribute to the visibility for institution research activities. And we have these synergy effects between projects. If you work with several groups together, you can maybe use the same framework, maybe use similar techniques. For example, if you connect to XSEDE, often for different projects, it's still the same command lines and the same stats, whether they are biologists or they work in physics. You can share resources, costs, and expertise across departments, and there are lower learning curves than for the different areas, because not one or two persons have to fulfill all the expertise. And it's really different or difficult for the individual to obtain all the expertise. And we could help the university, the institution, to retain top quality research computing support and interesting projects. So, and there are a couple of diverse groups aiming at improving career paths for on-campus teams. So there's SGCI, the Science Gateway Community Institute. At the moment there's a conceptualization of a US Research Software Sustainability Institute. So it will have, and one of the KPIs, we will have our final meeting, and we hope that there will be an implementation grant. There's a US Research Software Engineer Association still building up at the moment. There are about, I would say, 20 active members. There's the Advanced Cyber Infrastructure Research and Education Facilitators, the CARC Consortium, CASC, the Air Force Research Laboratory, NSF, and I listed already like this. So there are so many different groups. So it's important to see, yeah, there is dynamics in academia to change really the culture in academia, to support on-campus teams, to support non-academic career paths. But it's also a little bit scattered at the moment, and the goal is here to work with them together, to collaborate, and to work on, present success stories. So many universities have already centers or groups who have centralized services for science gateways. There's the Center for Research Computing at the University of Notre, the HUBzero team at Purdue University, the Science Gateways Research Center at Indiana University, and the Science Gateway group at Tech. And now we go to Menti again. And I would like to ask you, who of you have heard about these teams before this talk? About the CRC at XSEDE or HUBzero? Or maybe both? None? You're not sure whether you might have heard about it? It would be great if you would vote on that. The code is for the Menti side 733598. So HUBzero has really done a great job. Ah, cool, both. Okay. So if we look at this, so one of the goals is really also to bring visibility. And you can see that HUBzero has done already a fantastic job. So let's say in this group, more than half of the people have heard about HUBzero. That's great. So nobody heard about the Center for Research Computing. So we really have to work on this, because I'm also part of the Center for Research Computing at Notre Dame. And I go back to my talk. So one of the achievements, the Center for Research Computing, for example, was that in 2006 to 2008, there were 7 FTEs centrally funded. That was the group. And there was HTC and HPC computing and basic user support, and 80% centrally funded hardware, around 300 active users, but no other kind of support of research computing services, and underserved social sciences and humanities. And at Notre Dame, there were around 1,000 faculty and 12,000 students. So the CRC director decided then to take the risk and hire people first, and said, oh, I want to train people. I want to generate and bring projects, and I want to do science gateways, and assign people to projects and focus on getting more projects and more people. And he also assumed, okay, if I'm not successful with it, I have to exit. So that is his slide. He made the smiley behind it, and we got lucky. So he didn't have to leave, and we got a really big group, and we got many projects. So nowadays we have grown to over 50 FTEs, and 70% of staff salary is supported through grants and services. And we have 30,000 cores, and from 300 active users to 2,200 active users. We have 12 HPC engineers, and only 25% of the compute nodes are centrally funded. And we have per year around 15 to 20 cyber infrastructure projects, and more than 25 research programmers, and around 8 computational scientists who are all working on cyber infrastructure and mostly on science gateways, and still for the same number of faculty and students. So it's possible to build these teams, and HUBzero had a little bit of different path. So they created Punch, that was a precursor of NanoHub, of a science gateway. NanoHub is a science gateway connected with HUBzero. And so Punch started already in '96 and was focused to deliver, for the community, for the nano community, a science gateway. And then in 2002, there was funding for NanoHub, and then there was a spin-out of HUBzero from NanoHub. So at 2015, there was a diversification and self-funded sustainability. So they're not dependent on Purdue anymore. So HUBzero is a team at Purdue. And the vision was really dependent on people. So the first one had the vision that he wants to have something on the in the web that supports the user community. The next one added more and more tools and more simulation to it. Michael McGlennon had then a horizontal expansion that HUBzero is offered not only to the nano community, but all over to different communities. And the business transition was done by Mike Sandra. And nowadays, they have more than 25 full-time software professionals and still vacancies, and with different specialists in cybersecurity, web programming, user experience design. So it's really also the topics we talked about with the different experts. And they're servicing over 2 million total visitors annually, and are entirely self-funded. So these two use cases are really big use cases. And their commonalities and difference is in the success stories. So one commonality is there's always an evangelist, and that there's diverse mechanisms of funding. So it's not dependent on one NSF grant or on one DOE, or it's different mechanisms, and different origins and factors can work. So the product-based is with the HUBzero team. There's a science gateway framework that has been developed now over 20 years to a really mature solution. And compared with the service-based solution from the ND CRC team. So there is not a product, but so the team helps with different duties in a project, like security, like creating a gateway framework. So we use, for example, at ND also HUBzero, but we use also a gateway framework, Galaxy. We use different ones depending on the project. And you can have buy-in by the home institution, or you can also start independent. And these forming processes can be totally different. And you need an evangelist, always someone who's really convinced about the idea. And we are thinking over to call it a gateway ambassador, who can start and guide the process, like the XSEDE campus champions help with XSEDE Access and maybe science gateways for XSEDE. The gateway ambassadors would be the contact point to build up the community on campus. So one of the goals is really to find out, is there a gateway community, to build a gateway community, who could be interested, so that people can help each other. Maybe you want to do something like a team in a department, or that is part of an HPC center, or part of the central IT. Or you, like the Center for Research Computing, you are a standalone center institute on campus. If you look at this nice little joke, what doesn't work just to bring people together it's good to bring people together, but someone has to have a vision and the lead. So this is like, we like to bring together people from radically different fields and wait for the friction to produce heat, light, and magic. Sometimes it takes a while. So yeah, someone has to be really convinced and lead this effort. So if you, for example, think about to contact free resources, do you have people such as digital librarians? They are generally not only serving humanities and have great knowledge, data preservation, data lifecycle, but programming skills. So it's often, so I work a lot with our digital librarians because they know from their profession how to deal with large data. But you have to consider, do you have data scientists? And I mean, machine learning is coming up. You have to have a look at metadata ontologies, because the larger our data gets, the harder it's to find also in the different research areas. Do we have maybe an HPC center on campus? So you could have the HPC resources, virtual machines, so people know about containerization or distributed data management. And if you look in a other direction, like business specialists, they could help you with project management or outreach, marketing, the things we talked about. Yeah, to have an evangelist to reach a community. So please go to Menti again. I give you the number. The number is 610663. And my question would be here, which experts group, key people would you reach out to at your organization, institution, if you would be interested? And as I said, it doesn't have to be always this huge vision directly to start a team. It would be maybe a great start to start a community, to work with people together who have the same problems, who need to create a science gateway. And some people might, have the really experts in security, therefore another team might have the business specialist. So in Menti, you can give in up to 3 words. So, and then it should show up as word cloud, yes. So, yeah. Absolutely. The VPR, the research department, is also important. Department chairs. Yeah, this is a word cloud. Many of you thought about department chairs here. Data networkers. Yeah, absolutely. Domain experts. For a science gateway, you need the domain experts, otherwise you cannot create a web developers. Yes. Very good idea. Yeah. Research officers, yeah, IT staff. You can see, yeah, there's already, you have account managers, yeah?
So is the bigger word one of the ones that's most voted
exactly.
for? So I like that librarians was included in that. That's interesting.
Me too. So the bigger the word, the more people typed it. So yeah, librarians is great. I think especially with, we have the big data era and it won't get better, or might less challenging, let's say it like this. So yeah, it's fantastic. But also HPC colleagues, of course. Department chairs, the ones who are deciders on campus, like deans. Yeah, absolutely. Research faculty, research staff, yeah. I like it. Engineers. So give it another couple of seconds. Somebody is still typing. So, but here you can already see, so your first idea, when I ask you just, okay, if you would like to have this community, and maybe after that, the next step would be to think about having an organized center or group. But first, just bring people together and talk about that. Yeah, Science Gateways is something that many researchers probably need to do their research and to create it, to work together. And you have directly ideas whom to contact. Why did you choose the experts, the groups in the last question, the ones you typed in? Because these were the first ones which came to your mind, or these are the deciders, or these are the ones I need to reach out to, because in our group, it's an expert we could really add to our group. Yes, I'm in HPC. Here we go. Absolutely. So the HPC people are the ones you want to contact? Yes. Research is driving the need. I agree. Sustainability, viability. Yeah, if we need people who can say or help with the sustainability, the VPR, has the biggest reach, definitely. Yeah. Those are the ones I know can give results, yeah. Or seems most capable, yeah, absolutely. We want to contact the people. So HPCs and Science Gateways mostly involve advanced scientific computing resources. A lot of them, definitely. But there's also a move that we try to have Science Gateways for lab instruments. But I would totally agree at the moment. HPC drives Science Gateways, mostly. The three groups eventually tied to the end-to-end product. Yeah, I agree. Years of Germany impairs it. The experience on campus is also always very good. Yes, I agree. So give it another couple of seconds. So what we can see here is that it's really about the experience you made on campus, the outreach, what is beneficial for the end-to-end product, what kind of groups, and that involves a lot of different groups. When the topic is still really to enable science and enable research in the best usable way. And go back to my talk. And at the moment, it's really the right time. So the Science Gateway Community Institute is in its third year, and we can give support via diverse services like the consultation, really how to build up a community, to give you material like flyers. Sometimes it's just that people haven't heard about a Science Gateways. If you, for example, talk with humanities or people in humanities, they're sometimes not directly attracted by the term Science Gateways, but they might be attracted if you just say it's a web portal to help them to show their research online. So sometimes it's about the term, sometimes it's that people just are not aware of that they're working on a Science Gateway. So we can help with creating material for campus, to reaching out, to have really like a startup package, how to deal with different connections. But we have also expertise on demand. If, for example, you would need a usability expert. At the moment on campus is no one available to contribute to a project. You can apply to get a usability expert or a security expert. The extended developer support can help with up to 1 year of developing time for a Science Gateway. And if you look at different funding models for this, forming these groups or building the community on campus, you could create some seed funding or ask even for a startup package at the home institution. If you say, oh, it would be so helpful to have one Science Gateway framework and 10 different groups could directly use it with a little bit of effort to adapt it for their research. But yeah, so to keep this group sustainable and to working together, so you could think about inclusion in grants of some experts. So maybe you provide them first for free for new clients on campus, and then that they see the benefit of working with each other, that there are different resources. Or you could think about research models for service for campus and off-campus clients. If you have a group and you have maybe for the next years someone employed who is a security expert and the usability expert, and so the more you can maybe work with them on projects, or they can work on different projects. So they could, for example, book for hours for research, or you can ask for hard money from the home institution to have a solid hard money for part of the group, or funding bodies such as NSF, DOE. One of the part you could also think about, if you have your own framework created for campus that different groups are contributing to, you could have something like membership fees, which are not too high, but help with sustaining and maintaining the solution. Or you could think about, if you are part of HPC, we are in a group where many people are part of HPC, so there could be paid hosting services to have a level of sustainability via this service. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm open for questions.
Thanks for that, Sandra. That was really informative and well presented. I hope with 30 champions on board, we'll probably have a small number that want to know how they can get more involved, or mechanisms to access these resources or something. I'd certainly open it up now and take questions.
So you can directly contact me, by the way, or you can go also to sciencegateways.org, to SGCI, and there's a campus group site. There's some material already, but or at help.sciencegateways.org, we are happy to give more information.
And we can certainly mention that this is being recorded and will be posted on the Champions YouTube channel with the other videos and things. So when you have time to ponder and go through it again, you may have questions for Sandra then.
So Sandra, this is Marisa. As someone who is charged with evangelizing, like for instance, the GABS project, one of the challenges that I've had as someone who is not like one of the software developers or someone who's technically involved is trying to identify communities outside of the specific domains to reach out to. Do you have any ideas or suggestions on how to like reach a broader community?
So we look at every project itself, but one of the so that would be, for example, you would call us and we would go through exactly what are the different kinds of communities you are working already with, and there are suggestions to maybe go to a conference with a community you haven't had reached yet, or to have more social interaction, social networking with Twitter and all these things. I know GABS is already quite good with Twitter. It's also with all the social interaction to different communities, as far as I remember. So there are different measures for different. So one thing is really to find out maybe that there's a niche, to see who are the competitors also in the field. What are the researchers using otherwise on software? And whether there might be another area nobody has thought about yet, but it would fit also. And there's, so that would be per project. We really would go with you through the different steps and what kind of communities you already reach out to, what kind of, maybe, papers you have written, what kind of presentations are given, So we look for different outreach possibilities.
I may reach out to you about that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Do folks have questions? We have someone in the chat. So Amit says, good presentation. Some institutions already have science gateways, but some do not already have a portal for the HPC resources. What would you suggest for them as to where to start? And we are thinking of on-demand from OSC.
I think that on-demand from OSC is a really good one. It has gotten also additional funding again. I think they're developing the second generation at the moment. That is always promising, that it's further developed. So that is one of the good solutions, definitely. So the question would be here also, what is your focus? There's at least 3 or 4 other projects who are doing it a little bit differently than on demand from OSC. So it could be that, feature comparison would be good there. So happy to talk with you about it. But when you can give me more details, what your focus is, what features are really important for you, and then we could go through which kind of tools are delivering which possibilities.
So is it okay if I send, when I follow up with the presentation, I'll give everyone your email? Is that all right?
That's all right. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So I'll make sure that you have that email. Do we have any other folks? Nancy?
Yeah, not a question, but a comment. We're thinking about launching a program where there would be, this is what Sandra's involved in, where there would be a point of contact on campuses akin to campus champions, but kind of with a gateway focus. We're thinking about, gateway ambassadors or something like that, to make it more visible to all of those developing gateways, in the many departments across to talk to who might not have all the answers, but maybe has some of the answers or knows where to go for the rest of the answers, because I think, as Sandra was pointing out, kind of assembling all the different things that you need to do these well can be kind of difficult. And it's also difficult at a lot of places to assemble, kind of a well-functioning group that does these things. So we're thinking, if we can at least get kind of points of contacts that people can go to, that might go a long way towards building momentum at campuses around gateway development. I wonder if what people think about that idea. I see another question too about the portability of gateways.
Yeah, so it depends on each of the gateways. So for example, ITASA, I personally haven't installed it myself. I know it, but I never developed on it or further developed it. A lot of science gateways are quite well portable. I cannot answer it directly for ITASA, but happy. I know that ITASA is in our catalog and that we have contacts there. Happy to connect you there, and that you can ask the first questions. And
yeah, I kind of think it depends how they were developed too, because ITASA, I know that's to run a code that was developed by that research group, and it might be that code is rather tightly controlled as far as source code and compiling it and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. There's other gateways where they've actually spun off kind of frameworks that can be used to build totally unrelated gateways. Like HUBzero is a spin-off from NanoHub, and you can use it to build lots of different gateways. There's something called the Cypress framework that you can use to build gateways other than those doing phylogenetics, like the Neuroscience Gateway uses this and some others. So there's aspects of gateways that are portable, but yeah, you'd have to kind of look under the covers for the the ones of interest to see, and a lot of that could come from contacting the PIs. I know for XSEDE all the gateways are listed, and there's contacts for all of those. So
yeah, it's really, as Nancy said, dependent on each of the science gateways and what technologies also. So the other question would be, for example, Carla, which technology you would prefer for your campus, maybe also to get to campus. So that could be one of the criteria how to decide what kind of science gateway you want to have on campus.
Yeah, it might be motivation too. Like, are there limits to using ITASR in the way it's deployed now, so that you think that a local installation would be better? You know, do you think you'd get access to more cycles, or is there something that's not working? Because if it's perfectly open and can serve your campus as it is, that might be good enough, and it's certainly the easiest path.
Yeah.
Have technologies like the container effort that's really up and running now, has that changed the way that you all look at deploying these gateways, or is that improved or complicated situation?
So with containerization, we definitely also use it to be able to easier deploy some of the gateways, but that is also dependent on groups and providers of gateways again. So we will use Docker to have, for example, plug and play, and something that people can really try, a science gateway technology, and can say, oh yes, I can work with it in Docker, and if I want to have a real featured solution, I can install it myself. So Docker definitely is part of the landscape. Made a couple of things much easier to just be able to distribute solutions. So
I think you definitely did. It's just something I think we're all kind of wrangling in the background. We're using them for making software available to Windows users that's predominantly Linux or Mac, so people can get started on their Windows machine and migrate a container to an HPC system through Singularity or Shifter. But then I started wondering if that same principle held true with some of the gateways used and deploying software on gateways. So long story short, I think you did. Yes.
I want to say, for example, sorry.
No, sorry, Sandra. I think it's made this is Nancy. I think it's made some things a lot easier, Jeff. Like it has, across the board. So we have this little hosting system in SGCI that comes with pre-packaged containers of software used to build gateways. So it's kind of a much easier way to get up and going.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I know also that a lot of people are looking not only at Docker, but also at Singularity if they're working with their science gateway. And then there would be the security aspects, also for HPC a little bit more considered.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So all science gateways providers, a lot of science gateways providers are looking also in Singularity for HPC. Yeah.
Well, we're at the bottom of the hour. I guess we're at the top of the next hour. We'd certainly take any additional questions, but if there are no more, please give Sandra a round of thanks and appreciation, and we'll look forward to having her back at some time in the near future.
Thank you.
And I also posted my email address in the chat box for anybody who is not on our champions list. And I can send around the recording as well. And Sandra, would you mind sharing your presentation as well? The PDF?
Of course, I can give you the PDF, also the PPT, whatever.
Yeah, just send me the PDF and then I can send both along. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you for giving me the chance, and speak soon in the future again.
Yes, please.
Sounds good.
Now I have to figure out where to stop the recording. Oh, my buttons keep, okay.